more of the people that are speaking. Welcome to everybody that has joined. I'm sure that there will be a few, I was about to say latecomers, and that sounds bad, but there will be some people joining, and I will try and remember to let them in. I'm going to also try and do a better introduction of Donna McGeorge than I did last time, Donna. I feel like I didn't do you justice, but Donna, there's already people in the waiting room. I need to remember to let it. Oh, thank you. That while I focus on the introduction, which is the most important bit. Donna is an absolute expert when it comes to, well, lots of things, but Donna, for me, the two things that stand out the most for me is your amazing facilitation skills. So I was on a course with Donna 8 years ago when I was kind of just leaving the corporate world of Verizon and entering more into this world of facilitation and coaching. And I'd done my advanced diploma of facilitation, and I was thinking about a Cert 4, which here in Australia is a really, really boring training. And somebody suggested Donna's program of engaging audiences, and I went along, and it was a 2-day program, and it was absolutely amazing. And then I found out that Donna actually only lived, because she's moved now, about 20 minutes away from me. And I was like, already felt connected. Oh my God, Donna, you only live in Redesdale. I live in Kyneton. And then I got a couple of Donna's books. One of my favorite ones, anybody that knows me or is in the workshop in Omaha, I'm not a slide person. I much prefer a pen and a flip chart. And Donna has had an amazing book, or still has an amazing book on, was it The Pen is Mightier Than the PowerPoint Slide, something like that. And then you can see behind Donna all these other fantastic books that she's got, and that are also on my bookshelf here. The First 2 Hours, The 1-Day Refund, the 25-minute meeting. I bought my son the ChatGPT Revolution book. She was one of the first people to write a book around ChatGPT and AI, and it was invaluable in him in one of his assignments. And oh my gosh, Donna, I've started to use ChatGPT. But Donna, I am incredibly thrilled as in my network, and I am honored to know Donna. She's also the person that introduced me to Kelly, that helped me write the book. Did you say 12 books, Donna, you've written?
14.
14. Oh my God, I got it wrong in the intro.
This is the 14th. Can I just do a quick thing?
Of course you can.
This happened today.
Woohoo.
2nd edition, number 14.
There you go. So any of you that have not quite joined the ChatGPT revolution, get Donna's book because it is pretty awesome. So Donna did a session for us last week, the week before, I can't remember, on captivating audiences, the recording of which can be found on charlotteblair.com.au. Anybody that wants to captivate their audience in person or live a little bit more, then watch that one. She's also got some amazing programs that we will talk about a little bit more. But because Donna is also an expert in the area of productivity, and I love her book about the first 2 hours, and there are a lot of coaches that have joined group mentoring with me recently that have gone, oh, I'm really struggling with my focus. I said, Donna, would you mind coming back and doing another session around productivity? So that is what she is going to be here to do today. I'm going to share for you very quickly Donna's talents and strengths. I've got a report up in front of me. So Donna is also, like me, an activator, positivity, communication, maximizer, relator, futuristic, woo, responsibility, significance, and discipline are Donna's top 10 talent themes that I'm sure you will see all of them at play today. Donna, is there anything else you hoped I would say about you that I didn't?
No, I'm good. Thanks. I'm good. I was going to say maybe something about my stunning beauty and accessory matching, maybe.
Oh, yes, you absolutely need to follow Donna on well, where do you prefer people to follow you, Donna?
LinkedIn.
Are you on LinkedIn? Okay.
Oh, look, I'm on all the socials. Oh, well, actually not all. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, but I interact more with LinkedIn than anything else. So
connect with Donna on LinkedIn. She has the most amazing little, tea is her thing. And she does these amazing little tea videos. So I highly recommend that you follow Donna on LinkedIn. If you've just joined, if you wouldn't mind popping yourself onto mute, because we've got us on speaker view. I want to make sure whoever is speaking pops up into the view for the recording. So if you've just joined us, pop yourself onto mute. And Donna, I am going to hand over to you, my friend.
So Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good day, good night to wherever in the world you might be. I was listening to you rattle off my my strengths there, Charlotte, and I'd forgotten, because there's 10 and I don't always remember all of them, but I'd forgotten that one of them was discipline. And because a lot of people ask me about how did I come to be a productivity person, and I reckon that's the one. That's kicker, because I'm incredibly disciplined. I was having this conversation last night. Probably too much information, but just for what it's worth, given that we're amongst friends. Earlier this year, I had a health diagnosis that was not, type 2 diabetes. There, I said it. And my doctor wanted me to go on one of those Ozempic style medications. Now, no judgment for anyone that does want to do that, but I didn't. I felt like that just didn't feel right to me. I haven't, there's just not enough research around it yet. I'm not comfortable about all that sort of stuff. So I said, I'm going to have a crack at this with diet and exercise. And so I met a friend last night. She says, oh my God, you're the incredible shrinking woman. And I said, yeah, I've lost almost 15 kilos and about 20 centimeters off my waist. And she said, how did you do it? And I said, discipline. So go figure. I'm just one of those people, you tell me. And I'm very compliant. I don't know whether that goes hand in hand with some of those other ones, despite all my creativity and woo and all the amazingness and all that sort of stuff. I am actually incredibly compliant. So you tell me what, and I take this instruction well. So people direct me or instruct me, I'm good with that. But that's probably because I was raised by a Navy dad. So my dad was in the Navy, but in the Navy, he was actually a musician. So I've also got a fair bit. I think all the other things about me that are more kind of out there and expressive and all that sort of stuff comes from living in a household where we had a gig lifestyle where we would always be somewhere. Dad would always be on stage and all that sort of stuff. So that's a little bit about my background, and you just reminded me. Yeah. And discipline's not a badge of honor. I don't think people wear very often, but I'm happy to wear mine as a badge of honor. Hi, I'm Donna McGeorge and I'm disciplined. Which brings me to the topic today of productivity. And what I wanted to talk to you about today to help you is there's some stuff out of I'm probably cherry picking a little bit out of all my books today, but mostly it comes from the book The First 2 Hours, which is largely about paying attention to the clock in your body, not the one on the wall. But having said that, I'm going to dip in and out of a couple of others. I have got the chat open on my screen here. So if you see me with my eyes all darting around, I'm not distracted. I've just got all the things happening here. And do you remember what life was like without 2 screens? I don't know how we did life without 2 screens. I was in a thing recently and it literally had a screen that went around. It's like 3 screens. I'm like, I reckon I could do that. More screens, the better. Then I can have all sorts of stuff happening. Anyway, I've only got 2 screens going. And I've got the chat happening. So if you want to ask a question or interject with something or go, oh yeah, that happened to me once, or whatever you want to do, whack it in the chat and I'll respond if appropriate in the moment. I prefer it if you chat with everyone rather than just me, because if I do refer to it, I don't want others going, wait, what's she talking about? So keep it to chat to everyone. And if you do have to leave, no need to send me a little apology thing just to me, because that's a bit distracting. So don't send me a, hey, sorry, got to go because, kids or dinner or something. Don't worry about that. Just toddle off. It's okay. I won't take it personally. How's that? Okay. And Donna, happy to see you here, although I can't see your beautiful face because you haven't got your camera on. I always wonder, and it's okay, you don't have to tell me this. I just assume all Donnas, hi Donna, were all born somewhere in the mid-60s. You don't have to fess that up if you don't want to. Is that true for you? No.
Much older.
Oh, see, because my dad being a muso, he named me after the song Oh Donna by Richie Valens. And
I know.
I was always at school with 3 or 4 Donnas because I think lots of parents had that idea. So you were Donna before it was trendy.
I was, and that came out when I was in 8th grade, and I had a lot of boys give me that record.
I bet. Oh,
I also have woo.
Go, Donna, girlfriend. Hey. So I love it when you someone was like, you were cool long before it was cool to be Donna. All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to show you a slide in a minute, and it's got it's got a little Lego construction that's not quite right. And using all the pieces on the screen, I'd like you to tell me, what would you do to fix this? So I'll just put in the chat, how would you fix our little Lego thing here? So as you can see, it's a little bridge. It's a bit wonky, and you can use any of the bricks that are on the screen. How might you fix it? Just pop it in the chat. Don't overthink this. Just how would you fix our little wonky bridge here? Stick it in the chat for me. Blue one under white one. Thanks, Mindy. Just waiting for, because all your typing messages, if you're somewhere out in the world, it's got to go up into the ether and then come all the way back to me down under. Yellow or blue under the white. Look, Catherine, that's an awesome existential question. Is it in fact broken, and does it need fixing? Yes, it does. Let's not get existential today. Let's just go straight with yes, it is a thing that needs to be fixed. Here we go. Jason says remove the red one. What's wrong with the original? Angeline, I'm with you, darling. The white one closest. Put 2 squares under the red. Oh, you're using all of them. There you go. Kevin's, you an engineer in a past life. Kevin, you want to use all the bits there. Pull the whole thing apart, make it better. There we go. Take off the red, figure it out from there. Pop a little, move the red over and add. Okay, that's a bit too complicated for me, Charlotte. You've like these, we're moving all the things around. Now, of course, you were all technically correct. I said I want to just make it level, right? Fix our little broken bridge. So adding a brick to it is always going to do that. Pulling it apart, all that sort of stuff. But only a couple of you, I think it was one of you or a couple of you, suggested taking the red brick away. So human nature is such that when we're presented with a problem, our tendency is to add things. This happens when we're presented with problems at home. It could be anything from, I don't know, my wardrobe's a bit messy, I need to clean out the garage or something like that. And so the first thing we do is we go out to IKEA, buy a bunch of stuff, come back, and we try to retrofit all the crap that we've got into this new IKEA stuff. And then we still wonder why a month later it's all cluttered still. Or if we're in workplaces, we've got a problem, so we add policies, procedures, processes. In some cases, thank goodness for us, training and facilitation, or we might add meetings, form a committee. So from now on for the rest of your life, anytime you're presented with a problem, I would like you to ask yourself, is there a red brick I could take away here? Because that still solves the problem. It's makes our little bridge level. Now, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if there's anyone here that lives in Melbourne, but there's a very famous bridge in Melbourne called the Montague Street Bridge. And it is frequently on the news because it's quite a low bridge and trucks go under it all the time and rip the top of their trucks off, and it blocks traffic for miles. It's got its own Facebook page, for crying out loud. So unless you're the Montague Street Bridge, I'm going to say #redbrick. Is there this problem that's presented to me right now? Could I stop doing something? Could I remove something that would make the world a better place, or make the problem go away, or fix the problem in some way? Now, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, is Donna McGeorge? Genius. She's a genius. That was just worth coming just to hear that. I'm not actually the creator of this kind of thinking. It's been around for a while. In fact, I think it was Michelangelo that looked at the big marble thing and said he just chipped away, took away all the red bricks that weren't David when he did his David statue. But the author of The Little Prince, which I wish I could say, but I can't. Maybe the person here who's from Canada can speak French, can tell us how to say that. But I need to learn how to say this. Antoine Dece, I'm not even going to go for it. Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. So clever gentleman, this fellow, or woman, I don't know. Antoine, maybe it was a woman. Probably should look that up, hey? Lao Tzu, I know how to say that. I lived in China for a couple of years. Lao Tzu says, to attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, we subtract things every day. But my personal favorite is Coco Chanel. Before you leave the house, look in the mirror and take one thing off. And unless it's your swimsuit, don't be doing that. No one wants to see that. Just saying. Yes. He did, Oksana, write The Little Prince. So thank you for saying it was a he. Thank you. Thank you very much. He. Very good. And so what we're dealing with, this is kind of the stuff that Charlotte, when she and I were chatting or emailing or messaging each other about me coming on, we agreed that the problems all of us face, irrespective of where we work and what we do and how we work, we typically have a workload issue. And whether it's you or whether it's the clients that you're working with, workload is an issue. We're drowning in it. In fact, I'm old enough now to have lived through 4 decades of downsizing people in organizations and either same sizing or upsizing the amount of work we ask people to do. And we use technology as a reason to say, oh, people should be able to get through much more work now. And ChatGPT is a great example of that. But there's no question that people are probably overworked compared to where they used to be. And certainly this time of year, they're feeling even more pressure to perform. It's mid-year performance review time. So everyone's going through all that palaver right now, proving that they are, worthy humans for getting their pay and that they did their job, and goal setting again for the next round of stuff. But the pressure to perform doesn't just come from, your boss telling you to keep performing. It's also around the nature of competitiveness. I don't know whether it's just because I've started watching Formula One Grand Prix. Like I've never, in 50 years, I've managed to get through life, or more than that, over 55 years actually, get through life without ever watching a Formula One race. And now I'm addicted. And so I'm noticing competition in different ways than I ever had before. But the world's competitive, even on this screen, even though we all do the same stuff, we all don't ever think of ourselves as competing with each other. We're collaborators. I have colleagues of mine who I would never think of as competition, and yet we all compete for the discretionary spend in organizations on facilitation, training, professional development, stuff like that. So we're all in this kind of competitive nature, and it's hard. And can I also say the nature of work is such that it is relentless, whether you feel it or your people feel it. Look, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on this one, but you're probably never going to get to the end of your email. Even if you get to a 0 inbox on a Friday, even if you got there, come Monday, it fills up again. And even if it's just with the things you subscribe to or other stuff, like it's never ending. Same with your to-do list. I don't know, does anyone have that kind of cruisy job? I've got nothing to do today. I think I might just have the day off. Nothing to do. Like said, no one ever. So the nature of work is relentless. And we're hit by all sorts of stuff. So we're told, okay, if your work is that hard, maybe you just need to get up earlier. Get up earlier and you can have more time in your day. So if we're hit with the cult of early risers, and it's a bit of a bro culture, mostly a bit of a bro culture. Sorry to any gentlemen who might find that term derogatory. So, this fella, Dwayne Johnson, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, I don't know why I said it like that. He gets up at 3:30 in the morning to start his day so that he can, get ahead of the curve. Tim Cook reckons he gets up at 3:45. Okay, non-bro, even Michelle Obama, she's up at 4:30 in the morning. Catherine, you've been trying Rob Sharma's 5 a.m. club. There you go. Even 5:45. This is starting to get close to when I start to get up. But I've got to tell you, I think I'm more of a fan of Warren Buffett's idea of, he's a bit of a 10 a.m. Start work kind of fella. But truth be told, I'm not a 10 a.m. I am someone who likes to generally get up. I'm usually awake around 5:30, 5:45, and I generally get out of bed around 6. And so just for the rest of us mere mortals, what time should we get up, if you're wondering? So whether it's Rob Sharma's 5 a.m. club or something else. And I don't know whether Rob Sharma talks about this because I haven't read his stuff yet. But we basically should get up 7 hours after we fall asleep. So if you don't go to bed until, 1 o'clock in the morning, then 8 o'clock is probably okay. I go to bed around 9 o'clock most nights. Now, this research is also based on, or this number is, and I have to redo this slide at some point because most of the research around how much sleep you need is based on men, males. And it's recent studies, someone alerted me to recently, say that women need more sleep. Instead of between 7 and 8, they often need between 8 and 9. And depending on cycles, they may even need more at certain times of the month than other times. And so it's worthwhile paying attention to when you're at your best. So whatever the research says, pay attention to, you know, I feel great. And you know, sometimes I suggest to people, sometimes it's worthwhile keeping a journal for a little while on what were the conditions, or you know, there's apps for this. Go grab an app for managing your sleep around how much sleep I got and had I exercised that day, had I don't know, what would you say, had any alcohol, what did I eat, you know, and to track what are your best times. I did this for a while. Turns out my best night's sleep were a Monday night after half a glass of red wine and having been for a walk, 30-minute walk at least some point during the day. Go figure. And so I tried it on other days of the week, but there was just something about Monday nights where I got a better quality sleep. Don't really know what that's about. So you need to get up. So if you're doing the Dave Sharma 5 a.m. thing, then you probably need to be going to bed around, what's that, 9 o'clock? Make sure that you're in bed by 9 o'clock. Otherwise, you're going to be a bit tired. More on that in a little while. Do you know, same, Charlotte, I have a husband who sleeps like, he's like some kind of cartoon character, right? You know, doors open and close to the sound of my husband snoring. And if I don't wake up, if I fall asleep before he does, I don't hear it. It doesn't wake me up. But if I happen to wake up and he's in full freight train mode, I really struggle to get back to sleep. And I used to, does anyone else do this? I used to give him a big shove, like, because he was asleep and couldn't feel it anyway. And then I thought that was a bit mean. And so now I just reach across and just touch him on the shoulder. And that's enough to kind of roll him over. Let's not even talk about whether he has sleep apnea. That's for a whole other conversation. Because did you ever hear that? Does your husband do that? Some snore, and then doesn't breathe for about 5 minutes? You're like, shit, is he still alive? I'll give him a shove for that too. So let's play around with this. I want you to imagine, you don't have to draw the whole thing. You can imagine this in your mind's eye if you want, or you can just grab a piece of paper and draw a circle. You don't need to put the timings on it because you'll understand in a minute. But we're going to just find out what a very lucid explanation of our chronotype. And so what I want you to do is put an X on the clock where you go to bed or fall asleep. So I go to bed around 9. I'm usually asleep by 9:30. It's just how I roll, and I'm an excellent sleeper because I practice it. And if I have times when I'm not getting good sleep, I'm like, why didn't I sleep well last night? Eliminate whatever things stop me from sleeping, usually alcohol, just saying. And then I figure out what time do I typically get up or wake up. I don't mind if you want to shift this by a little bit, you know, go with as much as you can, go to bed and go to sleep. What time do I go to sleep? And what time do I wake up? And what we want to do is figure out what's the midpoint in between those. So for me, it's around the number 2. So I want you to figure out what your midpoint is around this. So just take a moment to do this, because I'm going to ask you to put something in the chat in a minute. So figure it out in your head. If you're similar to me, great, easy. Or move it around a bit. Maybe you go to bed at 11 and you get up at 7. So midpoint might be more like 3 or 4. Or maybe you go to bed at 1 and you don't get up till 8. So your midpoint might be around 5:30. Just play around with whatever that is, because what I want to figure out is, where do you fall in this little model? Now, this is not a pie chart. It's just a way to figure out what our chronotype is. So as you can see, I fall squarely into the early bird, as probably does Rob Sharma, just quietly. Most of us fall into the category of moderates. And then there's a few people, it's about 15, or actually about 20% of us fall into the category of night owls. So I'd love you to stick it in the chat just to see if we are good. So stick it in the chat. Are you a moderate, early bird, or night owl? Let's just see what people who work in the strengths worlds typically are. Oh, got a night owl, moderates, early bird. Very good. So night owls, Kim, are relatively rare. So the fact that we have 2 amongst this, amongst this group, is probably statistically significant. But I'm not a statistician, so I'm not going to go there. And so the other thing we need to check is, are you a real night owl, which are very, very rare, or a night owl because of bad habits. And so maybe you don't sleep very well, or maybe you have, oh, who's taking a photo? Sherry, you can take a photo. Just I'll smile next time so you get me. I'm going to give you the slides. So don't worry about taking pictures. I'll give you the slides. If you want to put them in your notes and stuff, go for it. But I will give you all copies of the slides. So yeah, Catherine, that's a great example. Like, you're a natural early bird, but your ADHD and sleep revenge issues, as well as life stresses, are flinging you between the two. And so I reckon, so that's an example of, some of us are night owls because we actually are born that way, and others of us are, we created them that way through some kind of external factors. And so I'm going to say, from a productivity perspective, you'll want to try and sort stuff out like sleep. It is your number one. Like, people say to me, Donna, how do you do what you do? And how do you have so much energy and blah, 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 and show up awesome the way you always do? And I'm like, yeah, it's sleep. And I work hard I practice my sleep, and I work on my sleep as much as I work on any other aspect of my world. So 2 big things for kicking off today so far. 1, remove the red brick. There's some stuff you can stop doing that's going to make your whole life a bunch better. And secondly, you've got to get better at sleep and figure out the things. So Catherine has, Catherine has quite a list here of things she can start. You know, pick one. Catherine, you may not solve all of them, but just try and figure out what's one thing you might be able to do that might improve it. So there you go. Your immediate life goals are mostly around getting sleep, because it'll fix everything else. You'll be really surprised at the knock-on effect of that. So for me, I get a great night's sleep. My day starts better. I make better decisions. I can think clearer. I can interact with others, right? I can just do the world a bit better. And the brain fog. So without realizing it, you've probably got a bit of brain fog going on in there as well, which means when you are present, it's why remember any of you as parents, remember when you had babies and they just didn't sleep and you were up and down all night with babies? And, you know, if someone said to you, you know, what would you like to eat right now? You're like, I can't make that decision because I do not have the capability of making that decision. And that's because we haven't had sufficient access to our alpha, delta, and theta brainwaves, which is what we're really talking about here. So you need access to those deep delta and theta brainwaves, or theta and delta, I think is the order, so that you can get access to your intuition, to your ability to think and solve problems and do deep thinking and quality thinking. So there you go. Productivity tip number 1, remove the red brick. Productivity tip number 2, make sure you get a decent night's sleep. And so this is related also to our chronotype. So those of you who are night owls, either natural or self-created, we could argue that you're mutants. Just saying. And don't, before you get all insulted and hang up on me, hang in there and let me explain why you might be a mutant. Because our natural body clocks, the way in which we're designed as, I don't know, physiological beings, is around a cycle of how our body works through the day. And so our blood pressure starts to come up in the morning, and a neurotransmitter called melatonin stops. Now, melatonin is the neurotransmitter that makes us feel sleepy. And so it's why you feel jet lag if your melatonin secretion's out of whack. And I actually feel nauseous when I get jet lagged. It affects my body so badly. And so what happens is when the sun comes up, so it's directly related to light, when the sun comes up, we stop producing melatonin and we start to feel more alert. And by about mid-morning, somewhere between 9 and 12, up there, it's a little bit different for everyone, we have our highest levels of alertness, mental alertness. And then towards the afternoon, early afternoon, we've got great coordination. So this is good for repetitive, routine kind of things. We can react quicker, not mentally, but physically. So our reaction time. So if you knocked over something, chances are you'll catch it better in the afternoon than you would in the morning. And we've got greater cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength. We've got an Olympic Games coming up. It's why more Olympic records are broken in the afternoon/evening than they are if a race or an event is happening in the morning. So you'll notice they usually gear up major events that way. So finals are later in the day for that very reason, irrespective of where you are in the world and television rights. And then our blood pressure is at its highest kind of early evening, and our body temperature goes up. I don't know whether anyone else notices this. I thought for a while I was just having one of those lady power surges that you sometimes get when you're of an age. I call them that, power surge, right? But it was happening too consistently at the same time, and I realized, my body temperature just goes up about 8 o'clock, somewhere between 7:30, right? For you as well, Donna, right? So it's just like, go figure. Body temperature goes up, and I'll be saying to my husband, can you stick the fan on, or can we turn the heater off? Or if I've got a knee rug, I've had a knee rug on most of the afternoon because I'm a little old lady now, one of those granny crocheted ones. Got my knee rug on, and then I fling it off because I get all hot. And then melatonin secretion starts at somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock. We are designed to go to sleep when it's dark and wake up when it's light. Now, I know we don't all do that, but strictly, but this is what we're designed for. This is why I said if you've got something different to this, then you've either trained your body differently, like shift workers do, or you could be a mutant and you genuinely have a different composition. And then, of course, our deepest sleep is around 2 o'clock and our lowest body temperature, which is why, Donna, after we've flung off blankets at 8 o'clock or whatever, about 5 in the morning, we're looking for them. Even I live in Queensland where it gets really hot, still at 5 o'clock, I'm feeling cold. I'm looking for my doona to come over. And they say that it's always coldest just before dawn. Yes, it is, because your body is cold at that time. So a couple of things I want to point out here that I've already talked about. The melatonin stuff is really important to know. So if you're not getting really great quality sleep, you might like to try taking, go find yourself a nice source of melatonin, look for the most natural one you can find. And I always travel with it because the jet lag hits me hard, because we've done a really good job of training my body clock to go to sleep and wake up. So my melatonin production is bang on. And so when I do travel somewhere and end up with jet lag, it takes me ages to flip it across, but I use melatonin to help me do that. And the other thing, which is what most of today is about, is around our levels of alertness mid-morning and coordination in the afternoon. And so people who do knowledge work, smart geniuses like I've got on this call, we need to pay close attention to this, because we should be paying much more attention to the clock in our body, which tells us that we need to be protecting that time in the morning to do our smart work, our thinking work. Now, this isn't after waking necessarily. So I always say my first 2 hours book was more about when you get to work. What do you do in the first 2 hours when you get to work? So I'm a bit like Charlotte. I typically start my working day somewhere between 8 and 9. And I typically like to protect that from doing presentations, except for today, except for when I get a special invitation to work with special people, then I will break my own rules, really. But I'm consciously breaking that rule. I'm not just, taking whatever comes my way. I have I think about that, and I think about the consequences of that. So I'm giving up my best time today to hang with all of you. Yeah, I'm good with that, because as Charlotte says, today, you're my favorite people in the world. Just saying. So I want you to be thinking about that. Who are you giving it up for, and is it worth it? Are you, if this was a game of Monopoly, this time of the day is Mayfair and Park Lane, or wherever it is in your country that you're coming from. It's Boardwalk and Madison or something, I don't know, whatever it is on the American version. I don't know what it is on the Canadian version. But this is the most valuable property in your world. This is the most valuable real estate in your calendar. And you get it every day for a couple of hours. Now, for some of you, it may not always be strictly from between 8 and 12 or 8 and 11 or 9 and 12 or whatever. But again, I'd love you to start keeping a journal, to start paying attention to when do you feel the most alert. Now, the simplest way to do this is to set up a regular timer on your phone or your smartwatch or whatever you've smart wearable tech, whatever you've got, to just give yourself a score out of 10 for energy do it for a couple of weeks for the time of day. Because you might find you may be a mutant. Then you might find that your most optimal, really good time is around 2 in the afternoon. So I find for me, I do all my thinking, negotiating, selling, influencing in the morning. And I do my I don't know, preparation of slides, updating of documents, preparing participant materials in the afternoon. Now, unless I'm creating something from scratch, in which case the creation happens in the morning and the formatting happens in the afternoon, because that's, for me, that's the routine stuff for me. More on that in a minute. But whether or not you follow this kind of protocol, or maybe you're just looking for hacks, like so far you're like, Donna's been half an hour at this. I was just looking for a couple of hacks, frankly, things that required the minimal amount of effort to get me maximum results. Remember, I'm a discipline girl, so not on my watch. So the 3 biggest hacks I can give you around this, and the first one we've talked about is rest. Are you working on your sleep? So paying attention to the clock in your body and making sure you're getting a decent amount of sleep. The next one, and because again, not only have we got the cult of early risers, we've got the cult of sleep deprivation or short sleepers. Now, Thomas Edison was in fact a mutant. Now, what I mean by that is there is a known genetic thing that happens on the Y chromosome. So it's passed down to son, granddad to grandson to sons, all over. That means you only need 3 or 4 hours sleep. So he thought the rest of us were lazy. And the reason he created the light globe was not for the good of all mankind, but because he wanted to get the rest of us lazy people working, because we'd all need twice the amount of sleep than he did. Turns out, he was just a mutant. I did actually meet an actual one in a class once. He said, yep, that's me. He said, I have that genetic thing running through our family. It goes down the male line. And he said, and so so someone said, oh my God, you've got a son, like a new, like about 12 months old baby. How are you coping? And he goes, just fine, because I get up with him. So my wife's loving it, because she gets to do all the sleeping and I'm up with the baby most of the time, because I don't need as much sleep as the regular person. But there were other non-mutants that still swear by this. Winston Churchill was a 4 to 5 hours. Nikola Tesla was a 4 to 5 hours. But for the rest of us mutants, you know it. Again, depends on, your gender. You could need a little bit more, but it is the 7 to 8 hours. Because here's the thing. Again, research shows that if you are if you are operating, beg your pardon, I'll start that sentence again. If you have been awake for 16 hours or more, you are now the equivalent of 0.05 in terms of blood alcohol. You are as impaired, cognitively impaired. And so you would never do client work while after you had a few, right? So I'm saying step away from your email at the end of the day, like leave it till the next morning, because again, you would not send emails drunk. Why would you send them when you're as impaired through lack of sleep? The other thing I said was fuel. So rest, fuel, and movement. So fuel, I talk about, I'm not going to talk about diets. I'm not going to be that person that says, stop doing this, start doing this. But I am going to say there's some fuel that burns like paper. You put it in your system, you feel good for about 5 minutes, you get a big energy surge, and then it just dies off. And there's nothing to show for it, frankly. Paper's a good example of this. Whereas when you burn a good bit of hardwood, even when the flames are gone, the coals still burn or generate energy and heat for quite some time afterwards. So if I was to use an example, carbs and protein are an example of this. Carbs burn much faster if you need them, and protein burns much longer. That's the only thing I'll say about that. You can make your own decisions, but just know if you're fueling the system that is your body, be conscious of the fuel you're putting in there, and going for that short-term hit of a packet of crisps or some kind of carby snack is extremely tempting, and a bowl of almonds or nuts or something like that might get you through it a little bit better. Just tip from your auntie Donna, who's been going through a fair bit of dietary change lately, just quietly. And then, of course, movement. We have to deal with the cult of the 10,000 steps. I don't know whether any of you know this, but the 10,000 steps thing came around because of the Manpo meter, which was a Japanese invention. And it was, I think, Manpo I don't know Japanese well enough to know, but I think the word 10,000 is in the name of the device. So it was a marketing ploy. And the rest of the world's gone, rightio, 10,000 steps a day is what we need. You don't. It depends on so many things. If any of you do about 5,000, that's probably enough movement. And you naturally do about 2.5 just going about your day. And if you happen to be on stage or facilitating, you probably do a couple of thousand just walking back and forth during a day. And so that kind of movement's okay. And if you go for a walk, if you want to be a bit more, so 7,500 is actually, they say, what the optimal is for the average person. Now, if you're a bloody athlete or something, go for your life. You can do 20,000 steps if you want. But this idea of 10,000 steps only came about because it was marketing, a bit like why Santa Claus wears red. And if you don't know that story, go Google Coca-Cola, Santa Claus, red suit. And there's a whole marketing story around that as well. And so us mere mortals, we should walk in nature. As little as 30 minutes can make a difference. Somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 is sufficient. And when should you do it? Hold that thought. I'll tell you in a moment. So again, if you're looking for hacks, I'm going to say the best hacks around getting stuff done and being focused is how you run your body. Because this is the instrument that you're using to perform your work. And all of it's geared at making our brain operate at its most optimal. And so when we have rest, fuel, and movement, our brain is able to show up as its best, which means we are able to show up better. And I mean, when you think about it, a lot of the stuff we do during the day is about making decisions. Even in the moment, as you're facilitating or coaching or doing the things that you're doing, you are making a decision in your mind. Shall I ask this question or this question? And the only way you know the right question to ask is because you're able to calibrate what's going on right in front of you. And the only way you're able to take that information in is because your brain is operating at its maximum and has all its resources available to it. So you can then make the right decision in that moment with your client in that second. And so I'm going to say to you, it's not about fancy to-do lists and prioritizing according to urgency and importance, because everything's bloody urgent, just quietly. It's more about, if I get my body and brain in shape, I'm able to be my best self. So sorry if you're looking for a to-do list hack. I might have one though for you. Just hang in there. I might have a quick to-do list hack for you though. Just hang in there. All right. So a couple of things for you. This is research that came out of the US that in the afternoons, people wash their hands 35% less in hospitals than they do in the morning. Pause for a little vomit in your mouth around that. Oh my God, people wash their hands less in the afternoon, right? That kind of changed during COVID because we all got a little bit onto the hand washing thing, didn't we? We're all about washing hands. Certainly in the first year, don't know whether, I mean, there were ads and stuff everywhere about wash your hands everywhere. There was a study done at the Israeli parole board around, their hypothesis was that there was some racism that was leaking into decisions that were being made. So all things being equal, to criminals, irrespective of race, when they came up for parole, were they treated differently? That was the hypothesis going into the study. Turns out it wasn't racism at all. It was around the time of day that their hearing was held. So if their hearing was held in the morning, greater chance of getting a positive outcome. Hearing in the afternoon, back to the slammer. The other thing they found was that if the parole judge had something to eat at lunchtime, chances increased of getting a positive hearing in the afternoon. So it turns out parole judges in Israel get hangry. Who knew? And then another study done by Harvard around journalists and analysts interviewing CEOs. They found that if they did the interview in the morning, they got a more positive write-up in the afternoon, in the papers, versus if they had an interview in the afternoon. So what does this mean for all of you? First of all, if you have to have a procedure, wait and get a morning one. If you happen to get in trouble with the law, try and get a morning hearing. And thirdly, if you have to do influence in some way, or you're looking for a positive response, or you're selling, I would do any selling conversations in the morning. There's also heaps of studies. Twitter have done, or X, whatever it's called now, have done studies around people are happier in the mornings. The UK public service did studies and found people were happier in the morning. So just people are more happier, influential, whatever, in the morning. I just want to catch up on the chat. Is it something we're all told to do, but we always listen? I'm too busy. I can't stop to eat or move, right? It's interesting what we prioritize, Charlotte, and it's a false economy. So the stopping, even if you stopped for 5 minutes and just took a few deep breaths, and got outside into nature, did a walk around. So my office is in my backyard, did a lap around the backyard or a lap around the house or go for a walk around the block, 5 minutes. And if you do make the effort to do something for lunch, and I know there's lots of, so I don't get into diet, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian, because, you know, there's people that do intermittent fasting. So I'm a bit of a fan of just 3 squares, decent breakfast, decent lunch, decent dinner. That's how I operate, and that's how I maintain my optimal performance. But, you know, there's horses for courses around that. But whatever it is, don't skip it. In Australia, we are terrible at that. In China, when I lived there, lunch was sacrosanct in China. You know, between 11:30 and 1, the office would empty as people would go and have their lunch break. Not only that, they used to do rest, fuel, and movement all in the lunch break. So they'd go off in an hour, they'd go off and have something to eat. They would go for a little walk, maybe a 10-minute walk around the block. And if it was raining, then you'd come downstairs and you'd see them all in the foyers. And when I say them, it was mostly the Chinese people that I worked with, because the foreigners were all still sitting at their desk, too busy to have lunch, right? Or they'd race down to Starbucks and grab some greasy something or other, or just whack a coffee down their throat to get through the afternoon. And so our Chinese colleagues would all be very sensibly doing little laps around the foyer just to get a bit of exercise. Then they'd come back up and pop their head down on the desk for a little 10-minute power nap. And first time I saw that happen, I was going to poke the person next to me, go, "Are you okay?" Because that's probably what you do here in Australia. But nope, that was, you look up and everyone was having a little nap. So they used to do rest, fuel, and movement in the middle of the day in their lunch hour. Very clever. Meg says, if we get up, oh, hang on, no, someone else. We get up once in the night for bodily function. Do you know, Meg, the bodily function stuff, most medicos would, so first of all, I didn't put this on the little map, but your body is designed to turn off. I'm going to be really irreverent here, so just all bear with me. Your body's designed to turn off the poop mechanism. It's related to your melatonin. So as your melatonin produces, it turns off your bowels and your poop mechanism as well. And that doesn't come back on again till morning. So if you were getting up in the middle of the night to poop, and I know this is, don't tell me, Meg, because it's too much. No one really wants to know. So don't tell me. But if that was happening, then you probably should go see your doctor, because that's not normal. If you're getting up in the middle of the night to pee, I'm going to say you've got to do a pee before you go to sleep. It's got to be your ritual and your routine, because yes, it is disturbing your sleep. And means that you might be getting a couple of great quality short bursts of sleep, which is why I wear an aura ring, because I'm tracking. You will wake up, your sleep oscillates throughout the night, and there are certain patterns that are healthier than other patterns. But if you fully wake up, you've then got to fully get back to sleep again, and you're just not getting the best. So my hubby and I, sorry, TMI, we do this thing where we just remind each other, have you peed yet? Because we don't want to be waking up in the middle of the night. And if you're waking up repeatedly in the night, which is sometimes what happens with, I know this, it sometimes happens if you have diabetes, type 1 and type 2, but mostly type 2, because you're thirsty. And so you wake up to drink. And then if you're drinking in the middle of the night, chances are you're probably going to want to pee in the middle of the night. So I'm not a doctor, so please see your medical profession for better advice than me. But no, it isn't as normal. You shouldn't be waking up in the night for bodily functions. But I also get, as we get older, our body just doesn't do what you right. So those of you who are a little bit on the, you know, yeah, Donna, you and me, darling, sometimes not as good. Are people happy even if they're night owls? Oksana, they're happier after their normal wake-up time. So if you normally wake up around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, that first few hours, chances are you're probably going to be happier in that time. So you'll just adjust all of this according to your wake-up time. The only thing I'd say is if you're waking up And anyone that's waking up and having to drag their sorry ass out of bed, like you'll lie there and all you can think about as you've woken up and now you're like, all you can think about is getting back into bed that night. And you're thinking, why would I bother getting up? I may as well just stay here all day. And it's really hard to get up and you feel you have no energy, despite the fact that you might have had 7 or 8 hours. You're feeling really low in energy. Chances are you probably need to do some work on rest, fuel, and movement, because fuel and movement have a direct relationship to sleep. Sleep has a direct relationship to fuel and movement. They're all interactive. So there might be a lever you can pull around that. And that's no matter, Oksana, whether you're a night owl or an early bird. So if you're a night owl and you bounce out of bed, awesome. That you're bouncing out of bed, probably happy and full of energy, then those first couple of hours are going to be really that 2 to 4 hours is going to be your best time. Catherine, bang on. Job interviews in the morning. Try and get them. Stop drinking large quantities of water after 8. There you go. Haven't been getting up since. We all love drinking lots of water. It's useful to have lots of water. And so I'm a huge fan of that. It's just that I'll often drink water nearly right up until about the half hour before I go to sleep, because I like to be hydrated, right? Oh, that was awesome. A little bit of, we did some questions in there, a little bit of, digression. I like that. There you go. So if we go with this idea that this is our non-mutant body clock and what most normal, whatever that means, humans are, or what we've been physiologically designed to do, until we mutate and evolve to something else, then this is what prompted me to write this book, The First 2 Hours. And I started thinking about we've all got work that requires high levels of intensity. I was tired of the urgency conversation, because everything's urgent. Let's just go with the fact that everything we have to do is urgent. But I was like, okay, there are some things that we need to do that require more brain power than other things. We need to think harder. We use more brain energy to do that. And there are some things that we can do that don't need that. Still, everything's still urgent, just doesn't require as much brain energy. And some things that have higher impact on our day. This is for me, return on investment. What's going to get me the greatest return on investment? Or what's the thing? This you could argue this falls into a bit of a time thing as well. Maybe some urgency in here, or low impact. Maybe it's not as great a return on investment. Still has to be done, because let's face it, no one's doing anything that doesn't have to be done. It's just choosing the right time of day to do it. And so that's how this model evolved. So this is absolutely around paying attention to the clock in our body, not the one on the wall, when it comes to being focused. What's our best time of day for focus, etc. So this turned into a framework. Now, at the end of today's call, I'm going to share a link in the chat that is around, I've actually got where is it? I've got one right here because I use it every day. Where did I put it? I buried it under some other stuff. This is not a plug. It's just to show you. It's a productivity system. And I'm in the middle of editing at the moment. And it is designed around the 4 quadrants. So don't go jumping online and ordering that right now, because I'm going to give you some free pages for you to test it for yourself first. So for those of you who were looking for how can I redo my to-do list kind of tip, this is the hack for you, which is when I'm writing down my to-do list, instead of putting it in order of urgency or bigness or things I like doing, it's like, what's the best time of day for me to do it? And I do the tasks according to the time of day that's best. And so I'll show you another picture in mine in a minute to show you kind of how a typical day might look, or it's actually a week. I use this over a week. So the first 2 hours is when our brain is more switched on. So important email responses, doing the content of a presentation, any detailed spreadsheets, reports, problem solving, decision making, conflict resolution, influencing, job interviews, etc. Look, Alison, I reckon creativity is an interesting one. I reckon it's hard just to turn on, but we want our brain at its sharpest. So I'm going to go, I pay close attention to what my brain says to me immediately on waking, because that's usually when I have a really awesome idea. That's usually when that happens. And so if I want to be creative or I'm trying to solve a problem, I'll say to myself the night before, what can I do about that? Go to sleep and pay attention to what my brain tells me in the morning. So I'm going to say the morning is still, or sometime in that first 2 to 4 hours is still a good time for creativity. So that's the first 2 hours. And I'm a huge fan of the Pomodoro method, 25-minute short bursts of work, focused bursts of work, get rid of all your distractions and get stuck into a solid bit of work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, get back into it again. Your second 2 hours is when you can share your genius and your smarts with others. It could be meetings. So this is still a good time to be having client meetings. It could be a good time to be doing coaching if it's a particularly tricky client. One-on-one meetings if you've got team members, open door, catch-up time, because you're still quite mentally alert. And this is where I say you're sharing your genius with others who might need it. If you are going to have a meeting, there's a short plug, quick plug, short purposeful meetings. Hey, that looks like a good book, 25-minute meetings. Well, yours truly. So keep your meetings short if you do have to have them. The third 2 hours is when you want to do routine stuff, the stuff that you don't need to think. So now's the time you do email. Now, if it makes you vomit in your mouth that you're not looking at your email until after lunch, sorry, but that's, why would you waste your most, useful brain power on processing emails? So routine emails, filing, report production, taking a break, going for a walk. So this is a good time to now go for a walk. You'll get the best bang for buck in terms of energy. There's always a good time for everything. So if you're wanting to do strength training, fitness, stress relief, if that's why you exercise, the afternoon's better. If it's for weight loss, morning is better. But if the only time of day you can exercise is the morning, keep doing it in the morning. Like it's any time is better than no time, just saying. Don't use that as a reason to stop. But it is a good time to take a break. And I am disappointed that we, don't have a siesta culture in Australia, because we certainly have the climate for it. Love me a good siesta. Loved COVID. Everyone could have a little afternoon nap. No one knew. I'm in a meeting, as we go off and have a little nap. Or something called a nappuccino, which I discovered, which is around, caffeine takes about 20 minutes to take effect. So if you really need a supercharge for the afternoon, have a shot of coffee, pop yourself down for a 15 to 20-minute power nap. Boom, wake up and you're good to go. So have a bit of a nappuccino. So that's what the afternoon is. Now, you don't do it for the whole 2 hours. Just so you know, you're not spending the whole 2 hours on each of these. It's just the best time of day to do this stuff. So I don't have a 2-hour nap. I'll have a power nap for about 15 minutes if I'm going to. Or I do things that feel restful or meditative, that use probably alpha brain waves that you nearly do in a daydream, right? The stuff you just don't need to think about. Really, that's what you do in that time. And your fourth 2 hours is the stuff that I say you do that your future self will thank you for. Finish up your inbox if you want, review your next day's to-dos, add to the to-do list. And I do things like preparing my wardrobe in advance, because I've been doing these videos every day and people have started now, they've started judging me, right? So they'll say things like, I didn't see your necklace yesterday. I'm like, dude, I was wearing coloured earrings. Like now everyone started judging me because I'm not showing up with my accessories, matching my teacup perfectly every day. It's only taken 3 weeks for that to happen. And so now I'm having to go to bed, not just prepare the outfit I'm going to wear, but what teacup am I going to use? So I know which outfit to prepare, which is going to go with the accessories and glasses that go with the dang teacup. So that's but deciding in advance means I don't wake up in the morning having to make those kind of what are, for all intents and purposes, trivial decisions. That morning time, we want to save for awesome decisions, life-changing, decisions that require willpower, like exercise and eating well, all those kinds of things. So, or influencing, or whatever those big things that we do. So we don't want to be suffering from decision fatigue, at 10 o'clock in the morning, because we wasted, despite evidence to the contrary, we stood in front of our wardrobe going, I've got nothing to wear. And it took us half an hour to figure out what we were going to wear. So don't do that. And decide meals and things in advance as well. So that's the whole framework. And as I said, you don't spend the whole 2 hours in any one of these. You just go that, you know, there's a particular thing I need to do, and I'm going to do it first thing in the morning. So you won't be able to read the detail on this. I'm just going to show you just to see, you can see volume. But this is what a typical week for me might look like. So the first 2 hours usually only has a few things on it, because they're usually big, intense items that I need to get done. And I'll list them. And if I, you know, what should I be doing right now? What time is it? What quadrant am I in? Yeah. The second 2 hours often has a little bit more, because these are things that other people need my genius for. The third always has the most, because these are usually the trivial routine. I mean, you know, send that invoice, send that email, update that document. These usually has more. And in the new edition of this, I'm making more space for that bit, because my experience is I sometimes go over. And then the fourth 2 hours is again a little bit smaller. Sometimes it has about as much stuff as the second, just as an idea for you. So all of these things are around doing the right thing at the right time. And in terms of focus, this, I mean, I use this system. Why would I sell a system I don't use, or even write a book about something I don't use? I've been using it for years, because at any given moment, I know what I should be spending my time on. All right, here we go. Miss Siesta Time. Love the book. To-do list. Any thoughts on the trend of grounding? I have no idea, Donna, what a grounding mat is. If you want to take yourself off mute and tell me what that is.
Well, I have a friend who's, you can buy sheets or mats or socks, and they plug into the grounding part of your sockets, at least here in the US. And it's supposed to be some natural way to calm your body.
Never heard of it.
I don't know.
But I'm going to go Google it, because I reckon I'll have something to say about it. I thought you meant by just going outside and rubbing your toes in the
well, I think that is also,
that would be pretty grounding.
I think that's part of it as well. You know, if you could go land your feet on the ground, but of course, you know, we're locked in our houses, so we have to have a different alternative.
Feels a bit weird to me to plug it into electricity, but I'm going to reserve judgment till I go and read about it and read the reviews and see what it's all about.
Oh, Mindy has said it's balancing our internal energy.
There you go.
Okay. Anyway.
Catherine, 20 years ago. So you've done the Barack Obama version of it, which is basically, and the, what's his name? The Steve Jobs version. Just go and buy yourself 4 identical pairs of trousers, different blouses. Don't even have to think about it. There you go. It is an absolute productivity hack. And you know, the only people that judge you are other women, because they're just like, pretty sure she wore that blouse last Tuesday. Is that her Tuesday blouse, right? I don't know why do women do that? But we do. We remember that stuff. So don't worry about that shit. Good for you. Not as extreme. Capsule wardrobe, same. I don't. The less you have, the better you are in terms of wardrobe. But a good capsule, grounding, balances. Thank you. Grounding in nature. Then don't. Okay, unless we're in a hurricane. That's very good advice. Thank you, Charlotte. Do I can hang clothes that match? Yeah, I kind of do that. So my wardrobe is such, I have all my trousers in one, long items in one section, shorter items in another. But I'll go in there and say, I want to wear that shirt with that pants, and I grab bits and I hang it. And sometimes I'll even hang the accessory on the coat hanger as well. So I get up and it's all there, particularly if I've got a very early start. But I'll also, in this last 2 hours or 4 2 hours, plan the route. If I'm going somewhere tomorrow, I look up, is there a parking station nearby? How am I going to get there? Even though the traffic conditions are very different, what's the approximate time to get there, so I can plan accordingly? But one of my big sayings generally, and things that I believe very strongly in, is what are the things that you can do in this quadrant that will make the first 2 hours tomorrow easy? Easy. Yep, that's what we're aiming to do, is to make the next day get off to an awesome start. So if you're wanting to start, so that was the, if you're wanting to get a start on changing habits, I found this recently, and I do need to put the person's name up there because now I've forgotten. Usually I remembered, but I love this. We often talk about starting habits and people say it takes 21 days, you know, to make a habit. It actually doesn't. It takes about 21 days to start a habit, 12 weeks to find a groove, 6 months to lock it down, a year to crave it, and 2+ years to make it part of your identity. So to go from, I need to do a 30-minute walk, to becoming I'm a hiker, can take about 2 years. And so if you're thinking about starting a habit, no, Catherine, I don't know if it was Atomic Habits. He might have written about it in there, but I saw it on Twitter or X, whatever it's called. So we're going to do questions in a moment, but what I wanted to share in case anyone needs to pop off, and I know a few people have, is the copy of the slides is here and a whole bunch of free stuff. So let me put this link into the chat for anyone that wants to go and grab stuff, maybe after the call. Oh, enter. Okay, good. So that's the link in there, and that's got a copy of the slides. There's something called the capacity quiz that you can do that's based on the book, The One Day Refund, around how you can manage how much capacity you've got and whether you need more thinking, breathing, living, working space. Free chapters of my books, all the resources out of my books, just a whole pile of free stuff for all of you. You don't have to give me your email address unless you're doing the capacity quiz, because we send you a report. That's the only one. So, Charlotte, I don't know whether you want to moderate questions or we just open it up. Who has a question about anything?
I think we just open it up, and then if I don't like the person who asked the question, then I'll moderate it. No,
But
I'm
they're all
joking.
your favourites.
I'm joking. Who has a question? Oh, they're a very silent bunch.
Oh, I was just going to, sorry, Catherine here. Sorry, my thing is not working here. Okay. I was just thinking, Donna, you're absolutely hysterical, and I would totally watch you on like a TV show. I'm just wondering if you do like regular podcasts, because you've got not only amazing hacks for life and all of that, but your delivery is just so spot on that I would actually pay to see you. Oh my goodness.
In 2 days that said I should be on telly. Look, and I know you can always teach an old horse new tricks, but I think I'm past going on telly. But I do a daily Teacup Chronicle where I share a hack on video. And funny you should say it, I'm about to launch a podcast. So that's coming soon. So thank you very much for your kind words. I did do a long time ago a stand-up comedy course, and I went and did an open mic in a public comedy club. Don't do it now, but if you went to YouTube somewhere and looked for Donna does stand-up or Donna McGeorge does stand-up, you can see my live on stage comedy.
Awesome.
But thank you. So yes, join with me on LinkedIn every day, and I do post it on Facebook and Instagram as well. So that's very nice of you to say that. Thank you.
You can also find, I mean, if you look on any podcaster and put in Donna's name, she's been a guest on lots of people's podcasts. So, you know, even if not starting your own one, you know, find some topics that are of interest.
Thing, and this is an awesome opportunity to do a wee plug. I teach people this. I teach people engagement. And so I've got public courses coming up in Australia in later this month and in August, which is probably no good for you because you're coming from another part of the world. But I also have it as an online product. So if you want to learn how to be more engaging from the person who you find engaging, you can go and grab that material as well. You'll find links to that on my website, or maybe I'll try and multitask and put a link.
I was going to say, I think it's in the link that you sent, I think. But yeah, otherwise, if you find a direct link to it,
but here it is direct. This is the one to the live stuff. But there's also a link to the online version if you want to snag that one.
And if you do the online version, see if you can spot an 8-year younger Charlotte.
Just in the background. Anything in the chat? No questions. Just thank you. Oh, good one, Sherry. You know, I'm glad I was here just when you needed it. Always good. What about writing a book? What about writing a book, Alison? I've done 14. I do know a thing or two about writing books, just quietly.
So when you are writing a book, what time of day is that best happening?
Yeah, I generate content in the morning and I edit it in the afternoon. So I use it's not quite the Hemingway version of write drunk, edit sober, but it's similar.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Donna, I was.
But I'm
flicking-
sorry, just one more thing
Go
on that, Alison. And I do use the Pomodoro method. I do the 25 minutes, then take a break, 25 minutes. And then when I was working with Kelly Irving, who's the editor that both Charlotte and I have used, our meetings, we went right into it. You know, our manuscript reviews were always 25-minute meetings. So I use my methodology all the time. Yeah. Sorry, Charlotte.
No, you're right. It's all good, useful stuff. I remember I was flicking through your First 2 Hours book, and I think I referenced some of this in my own book. And the bit that I've got highlighted here that was really poignant that I'd love you to talk a little bit more about is something around when somebody asks you to do something. And you say, like a client says, oh, can you get a proposal to me? And we go, yes, when do you want that by? And they say, oh, I'll close a business Thursday. I remember you've got something in here about, you know, how we might be able to push back so that we're getting the optimal proposal to them. Now, I can read out what's in your book, but do you want to talk more about that? I was under one of your experiments and I was like, yeah, I love that. And I've got it underlined.
Read it out this way. Thanks. Just to remind me of my own
Just
genius.
to remind you of your own genius that when you put in there, asking people for content around what will happen with the work afterwards. For example, who is wanting this? How will how will what I'm doing affect the work of others? Responding if they say, well, I need it by close of business today. Well, what will happen if I wasn't able to meet that deadline? What would happen if I gave it to you by 10 a.m. tomorrow? I think sometimes when we're working with clients, we go, yes, you need it by this time. But do we always stop and ask the question of,
Right.
you know,
just for what it's worth, I push back on that all the time. And so people say, when can you get that proposal to me? And I say, when do you need it by? And they say, well, ASAP today. And I'll say, well, I can probably get it to you by about Thursday afternoon sometime. So I try to keep control of the time frame because I know my best times to work. But I'll also say to people, look, I can get you a half-assed one this afternoon if you really desperately need it because they say I'm having a meeting or I need it or blah, blah, blah. But usually, because my experience is usually it's an arbitrary thing they've made up in their head. Close a business is an arbitrary time frame they've made up in their head and they think it sounds clever to say, oh, close a business today. Or it's because they just want to tick it off their to-do list. Right. And so I'm going to say to them every single time, look, I could get it to you this afternoon, but it won't be as good as if I get it to you tomorrow morning. Would that be okay? And because of the work that I do, people are usually okay with that because they get Donna McGeorge First 2 Hours, blah, blah, blah. But for the rest of you, it would just be that those questions around, look, before I agree, before we go on, can I just ask a couple of questions? Who are you giving this to, just so I understand what needs to be in it? If I couldn't get it to you tomorrow morning, what would be the consequences of that? And just see what they say, because most people will pop out of their weirdness. They say, I need it by close of business today. Well, what would happen if I got it to you by 10? Oh, yeah, that'd be fine. Okay. Now, they might not, but for some reason, because if you say to them, now, you got to say this with respect and care and empathy and love and all of that. But when they say close a business, you could say, so are you planning to read it tonight? Right? No? Okay, well, can I get it to you? So would first thing in the morning be okay? Yep, okay, so you should have it in your inbox by 10. That's not first thing, have it by 8. Okay, well, no. Yeah, so I think it's also about, I refer to this as assumptions of reasonableness. So I think we spend a lot of time in the world operating out of assumptions of unreasonableness. So that reasonable, if I push back, they'll be unreasonable about that, and they'll say, no, I have to have it by close business. Or that it's unreasonable for you to push back. So there's all these assumptions of unreasonableness. And then when we go with assumptions of reasonableness, it's perfectly reasonable for you to say, actually, I can't get it to you at that time. I can get it to you the next day. And that you assume they will be reasonable about that. And so I think if we go in with assumptions of reasonableness, my experience is you're okay.
Well, it's a bit like your 25-minute meeting. The assumption is that we have meetings for 60 minutes, but what would happen if it was only for
What happened
25
if it
minutes
was
and we were more
25, right?
focused on what we were actually going to get on and do and had some, processes around that.
And you're only good for 25 minutes in most meetings anyway. Yeah, Donna, you're probably right about the achiever stuff. There are some people that just want to tick boxes off, and what happens is they don't realize, because they're also very nice people, achievers, coming from one who I think is an achiever. They don't realize that doing that puts pressure on others. And so I try to be a bit conscious of this. And I do this even when I come to sending emails, just because it suits me sometimes to get through a pile of emails on a Friday night. The last thing I want to do is fill up all my mates, colleagues, and clients' inboxes with emails on a Friday for people who are also trying to get through their inbox on a Friday night. So I will sometimes set those to deliver, at around 9:30 Monday, because I'm happy to wait for a response until they get in on the Monday. I don't need a response Friday night. I certainly don't want to work it on weekends. And so I do delayed responses a lot because I don't want to be the person filling up their inbox. Catherine, unrealistic as she wishes I was managers. Yeah, this is the red brick thing. Anytime someone's piling more stuff onto you, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to stop doing some stuff. I love that I can say a sentence like this. Every time I start writing another book, there's a pile of things in my routine I stop doing. And my hubby knows it. There's a whole bunch of things that just stop happening when I start writing a book. And it's things like weekend television usually stops happening. What are some other examples? I'm a bit of a social media scroller. I do. Don't at me or judge me. I sometimes play we call them my dumb games. It's a way I unwind. Sometimes I play dumb games on my iPad and my phone sometimes. And they all grind to a halt and it's funny, it's now after 14 books, it's now such a habit that the moment I start writing, the urge to do those things completely goes away. So it's that now ingrained in my routine of book writing. So yeah, and you can do it with respect, right? Catherine, it's just like, okay, can we just have a conversation now about my workload and my capacity? Because I'm not sure I've got the capacity to add more in. I get that I might be the only person who can do this, which means we're going to have to figure out who else is going to do this part, or we might have to delay this now, because there's no way I can do all of this that you're asking me to do in this time frame. So I think that's an assumption of reasonableness, right? Versus I better just say yes, because it's unreasonable for me to say no, and my boss is going to be unreasonable about it.
Got a question on you. Yeah, I was going to say, I noticed when you mentioned Aura Ring, a couple of people sort of looked like they were taking notes. I'm like, I'm curious, what's an Aura Ring?
Okay, it's because I'm obsessed with my bodily functions at the moment, and I am determined to turn around my type 2 diabetes diagnosis. It is possible to turn it around, and I have to turn it around in this decade of my life, in my 50s, because it'll be so much harder to do it as I hit my 60s and beyond. So I want to get it done. And so I'm measuring my sleep, my body temperature, my blood pressure, anything that an Aura Ring measures, and I'm obsessing about it. And it's kind of along the lines of the grass is greener where you water it. And so if I want my sleep to improve, then I better pay close attention to it. And my sleep's pretty good. So yeah, I got it for that. And it doesn't measure my blood sugars, because you'll be pleased to know it doesn't have a pinprick in there. But it does measure some of the other indicators like blood pressure, temperature, fatigue, my sleep. My heart rate, I'm measuring my heart rate, and because I'm on some medications for other things, and so I also want to make sure that my heart's doing the thing it needs to do. I had a mate recently who, my age, and she's skinny, she's the skinny one, had a bloody triple bypass. And so it's just made me very hyper aware of my health. Yeah, and Catherine, you're right. Apple Watch can do lots of these things. Yep, I just never liked the watch, probably because I had fat wrists for a long time. But well, you know, when you lose weight, you lose it off your wrists as well. Maybe I could wear an Apple Watch again, but now I've got an Oura ring. So there you go. If you do get one, let me know, because I can send you a discount link. Right, so email me. Let me put my email in here. If you decide you want to go down the path, george.com.
What are you saying a discount on, Donna? A discount on
Oura
your
ring.
I was gonna say,
If people want
sorry.
an Oura ring, I've got some code they sent me when I bought it that if I send it to others and you order through that link, you get a bit of a discount off the price. So why not? Someone did that for me, which is great.
I love it. What other questions do you have for Donna while we have the productivity expert here with us? What other questions do you have that you were dying to know, that you wished
You've
you
got a
know?
global authority in productivity
You
right
do.
now at your beck and call. Kevin.
You do.
Yeah, hey Donna, Kevin here up north of Seattle, Washington. Thanks for this today, really super good. I am curious, you held up a planner for a second there that had the 4 quadrants. Is that the first 2-hour planning page?
Yep. In the free stuff, that's what that is. Yep.
Awesome, perfect. Yeah, it looked very useful. And
Yeah,
different
just
than
download
that.
it. What my advice is, download it and try it for a couple of weeks and see if
Yeah.
it feels good. And then when you're, don't buy this. Well, you could. I'm probably going to do a big sale because I've got like about, I don't know, 20 of them left in stock. So I'll probably do a big sale on these ones. These are still good, but I'm just going through the motions at the moment of updating it now that, because I update it all the time, and then I print about 500, sell them, and then update it again and sell them. So, yeah. Cherie has a question that hadn't been answered. One moment, please. Where is it?
I'll just pop up and tell you what the question is. That's okay. So I had asked, in regards to that first quadrant of the productivity, is there a time frame between when you wake up and when you should start working? Is there a prime, like is it an hour, half hour, that kind of thing?
Okay, so I know this is what works for me, and it's about 2 hours. So I wake up at 6, and in the time it takes me to do a bit of exercise, go for a walk, have some brekkie, I tend to be an ease into the day kind of person. I like I don't so much fool myself into thinking I'm on vacation, because that's not useful. But I do, I don't immediately say to myself, I better get to work, because I don't want to create that feeling for myself. So if I was going to ever be a fan of Rob Sharma, it would be to get up that little bit earlier so I can have a more relaxed start to the day. That varies, of course, when I have to go get on an airplane very early in the morning, or I've got to be in the car very early in the morning. So I don't do that. But for a usual, certainly admin-y kind of day in the office day, it's typically 2 hours after waking. That gives me time to exercise, shower, dress, breakfast, have a cup of tea, yak with my husband, and in some respects sit at my desk 10 minutes before I'm going to start, open my book and figure out what did I already decide yesterday that I needed to do in the first 2 hours today. That's kind of how this thing works at its best. So thank you, and thanks to everyone who alerted us to that, and totally missed that one in the chat. Thanks, Cherie.
I missed that one too. Thank you. Well, Donna, as always, as we come in for landing, I appreciate you giving your time to this community and your smarts. I'm even going, some of you that were in Omaha with us, we had Michelle Cummings come over and do some stuff. Donna is a similar vein. As you could tell, there's some energy in there as well. But I learned an awful lot from her, 8 years ago, and have continued to learn from her. So Donna, we might even see wherever we have the event next year that we can, kind of get you over. But thank you for giving your time. Please do, have a look at some of the things that Donna has shared with you online. I highly recommend the face-to-face program for those of you they're in Australia. I highly recommend the virtual program as well, because I have access to the virtual program and it's very cool and got lots of resources and videos that you can kind of pace yourself through. And at a minimum, maybe look at buying one of Donna's many amazing books. But Donna, thank you so much for giving your time. We hope that we get to see some of you again. I have posted in the chat some of the other sessions we've got coming up. We've got Jennifer Selke sharing Mastering Large Group Interactive Training. We've got Colleen sharing about Lego bricks. And then watch this space. I hope to launch in the next 10 days or so the Circle platform, which is going to be a space for coaches to be able to come on and connect, learn and share with each other, where we get to have great guests like Donna, where we will share all the recordings for guests that we have on, where we can have spaces where we could do co-working, brainstorming, grand rounds philosophy, bring a problem that you've got and, you know, get the smarts from other coaches. The wisdom is in the room to solve those problems. So if you're not signed up to newsletter, signed up to newsletter. If you're not following Donna, follow Donna. If you want to join some of those events, then sign up. You will notice that some of them are paid and they are minimal amount paid and some of them are free. And again, thank you, Donna, for giving your time today. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to stay on and I can happily stay on, or send me an email. But otherwise, those of you that need to go, thank you very much. And we hope to see you again soon. And I will hit end on the recording.